and welcome to the 741 channel. Thank you for stopping by. Today we're going to take a look at my new to me 2013 Honda NC700X. Those of you who follow my channel will know that I just recently, in fact 2 days ago, sold my old Kawasaki ZR-7S. That was a 2001. So I needed a bike that had a little bit more upright seating position than the Kawasaki had. So that's why I decided to get rid of that and get this instead. So I'm going to go freehand with the camera here. Hopefully this doesn't get too shaky for you guys. The first thing that you may have already noticed is that the bike has sort of a dual sport tire on it. And this is something that the previous owner put on the bike. I'm not sure how many miles are on these tires. There are some signs of wear on them. And it looks like they may have been used more on the road than off-road, which is fine by me. But you can see, maybe you can't see, these are Pirelli MT60R tires on this bike, both front and back, of course different sizes. So taking a look at the front brakes, you may be able to tell that there's only one rotor and caliper. On my old bike I had twin calipers in the front, one on each side, but that should still be plenty of stopping power. I think that's a twin piston caliper, and it ought to be okay. Now, an interesting thing about the brakes on this bike, if you take a look at that brake disc, you may be able to see that it's kind of a large diameter disc. And then if we look back here, the one that's on the back of the bike is sort of a smaller diameter disc, also a single caliper back here, twin piston I believe. But either way, if I had to guess, I'd say that when they manufactured these discs, they used one piece of metal to cut both discs, meaning that this back disc fits inside of the front disc. And that would have been a way for Honda to save cost and keep the price point on this bike nice and low. So looking back here at the engine, you can see there is the radiator for the engine. Now, I'm a little bit concerned about this radiator, but this is where you'd find radiators on most bikes. But this one being sort of a light kind of adventure bike, you could take it off-road, be a little concerned about rocks and stones coming up and hitting the radiator, so I might look into putting in some kind of a guard on that. Not that I'm going to be doing a whole lot of off-roading on this thing by any means, but I may take it on a dirt road once in a while, so it would be nice to have a little extra protection there. So if I do any extra mods on this bike, that will be one of the first, I think. Anyway, here's a closer look at the engine. You can see it is a parallel twin design, and from what I've been told and what I've read, this engine is derived from or based on the engine that is in a Honda Fit car. And you can also see that the cylinder is, I'm not sure what angle that would be at. It's a little more than 45, I guess, maybe a 60-degree angle. Either way, it's kind of low to the ground. It keeps the center of gravity on this bike nice and low, which makes it nice and nimble. So back here, you can see I've got some Honda side bags that the previous owner put on, and they are a little bit scuffed up here. I'm not sure if he had tied things down or if he took this adventuring and scraped them up a little bit, or this even could be just from swinging your foot over the seat. Because the bike is not a very big bike, it is a little tough to get your foot swung over with this thing in the way. Back here you can see there's a luggage rack. This is an aftermarket piece that would have been added on by the previous owner as well. I'm not sure if he ever had a trunk on here. You can see there are some rubber plugs here that you can pull out, and that would bolt to some holes that would be in there, but it doesn't look like there's any evidence of scratches or anything on this, so if he ever had one, he kept it. But I'm tending to think that he did not put the trunk on this. But either way, I probably wouldn't run it with the trunk most of the time anyway. I don't need that much storage space. If I do need some extra space, I have a soft tail bag that I can bungee down to this. Okay, so we kind of already took a look back here when we looked at the brake, but here's another look anyway. You can see that the Pirelli MT60R back here is still in pretty good shape. A little bit of wear in the center, that's to be expected from riding on the road, but all in all, tires have got plenty of life left in them. Now, having said that, I may end up changing these. Again, I don't plan to do a whole lot of off-road with this bike. I tend to do a lot more on-road with a bike like this. So I may put street tires on this just to give myself a little bit smoother ride. So back here you can see the bike is chain drive, and we've got a nice chain guard there. And then on the swing arm you may be able to see that the bike was originally sold, and I presume serviced through Manchester Honda out of Manchester, Connecticut. In fact, the bike came with a oil change kit, Honda branded oil and Honda filter, so I think the previous owner probably had this thing maintained at the dealer. However, one thing that I'm going to have to do, or take care of sooner than later, is tighten up this chain a bit. You can see it's kind of loose. It probably ought to be a little bit tighter than that. But that's not an issue. I can do that myself here without too much trouble. And it is still winter here in Connecticut. It's the end of February 2018. Now, we have just been getting rain lately, no snow, but it could snow at any time. So I won't be hitting the roads probably with this thing for another month anyway. So up here at the top of the bike, you can see that the previous owner has added some handlebar guards. I think these are, what are these? A Cerbis, I think that's how you say that. A Cerbis brand, so those are on there. Those are kind of nice. Again, these are nice if you're out single tracking through the brush and everything. You won't bang up your knuckles on the branches and things like that, and it'll protect your levers as well. But what I found just riding this bike home from where I bought it from, about 10 miles on kind of a cold day, this also keeps the wind off your hands and keeps your hands a little bit warmer. So that's kind of a nice touch. I like those. So up here we have the instrument cluster. You can see it's all an LCD type readout, and then there's some LEDs up here. We'll turn the bike on in a minute. But before I do that, let me show you one of the interesting features about this bike. Now, most bikes, you have a gas tank up here. Well, not on this bike. You can see that this is a storage compartment, and from what I understand, this is designed to fit a standard size helmet. Now, one other interesting thing here down in this cubby, I don't know if you guys can see it, it's kind of dark in there, but there's sort of a trap door at the bottom, and there is a little secret compartment down there that you can keep probably your paperwork and all that sort of thing would be the best thing to keep in there. So if the gas tank isn't here, where the heck do you put gas in this thing? Well, what you do is turn the key the opposite way, and it releases a latch on the back of the seat here. I guess I didn't turn it far enough. There we go. And that'll pop up, and there you have access to the gas filler. Okay, I'll turn the key on so you can see the dashboard light up, and then we'll fire the bike up so you can hear it run. So there you can hear the fuel pump and everything initiated. This is a fuel-injected bike. The first fuel-injected bike I've owned, by the way. Okay, so here's a look at the digital dash. You can see there's an LCD display there. I've got the total mileage, 10,311. And again, this is a 2013 bike. We've got a clock that I need to set. This always says 1 a.m. Seems to have said that for the entire time that I've owned it, in the last couple days anyway. An oil light, neutral indicator. It doesn't tell us what gear it's in, but it just tells us we're in neutral. There's a check engine light, a temperature gauge, high and low beam, and then the directional indicators. Oh, and also there is a fuel gauge. Now the tachometer on this bike is just a bar that goes up here, and you can see that this indicates the RPMs, 1,000, 2,000, so on and so forth, up to the red line of 6,500. So it seems to have stopped raining for the moment, so I pulled the bike out of the garage. Let's give it a quick fire up so you guys can hear what it sounds like. Well, that figures. When I first looked at the bike, the battery was dead, and I just assumed it's because it had been sitting all winter. But it seems like the battery is probably not holding a charge anymore. I'll throw a charge in it just so we can start it up, but it looks like I'm going to need to get a new battery at some point. So there you go, fires right up, even on a cold rainy day. That's the beauty of fuel injection. So as you can hear, it's a nice smooth running parallel twin, nice and quiet. If I had to describe this bike in one word, I think I'd call it polite. It's just a nice, polite, well-mannered, all-around bike. Well, that's pretty much going to do it for the Honda NC700X today. If you want to see more about this bike, stay tuned to my channel. I'm sure I'll be featuring it in upcoming videos. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to leave a comment or subscribe, feel free to do that as well. And if you'd like to support my channel in another way, please consider visiting my Amazon store, which you'll find a link to in the description below. Thanks for watching.